Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
We have the wonderful pleasure of being visited this Shabbat and into Sunday by Micah Simons, who is in his second year at the Jewish Theological Seminary in New York. Shout out to JTS grads. Who will be getting to share his Torah with us tonight. He got to engage with our GON students this morning at Here Comes Shabbat. He'll be teaching tomorrow during services as well and during the Learn After Lunch. And so we have the wonderful opportunity of soaking in his Torah. He'll also be back to visit us in early mid-January. So without further ado, I'll hand it right over to Micah as we get to learn some Torah.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I've loved being at Adath and in Minneapolis so far, and I'm so excited to be entering Shabbos together. Growing up as just one of a handful of Jews in my public school, I remember being the point person for all of my classmates' questions about Judaism. You're telling me you don't have a Christmas tree? So is Hanukkah basically Jewish Christmas? Do you get one night of presents or 8? 8? I'm telling my parents I want 8 nights of presents too. While I didn't sign up to be a modern-day Nachmanides defending Jewish life in the court of Gentiles, I was stuck with explaining the logic to our ritual life. Everything from kashrut to Rosh Hashanah to those funny little hats we wear at shul. And yet, in the 1 versus 8 day discrepancy, there is a logic to the laments of my peers. And it shows itself in our parsha. Yaakov, anxious about approaching his brother Esav, 20 years after having walked off with his birthright and his blessing, prepares a litany of gifts for him in the hopes that on their account his brother will forgive him. V'yiten beyad avdav, and he put them in the charge of his servants. Eder levado, drove by drove. Vayomer el avadav, and he told his servants, Ivru lefanai v'revach tasimu, Ben eder uvein eder. Go on ahead and keep a distance between each drove. Yaakov spreads out his gifts to Esav, instructing his servants to bring them eder levado, each flock on its own. The Rashbam, Rabbi Shmuel ben Meir of the 12th century of France, reads into Yaakov's intent, noting that when we spread out our gifts, the recipient comes to appreciate them all the more so. Yaakov separated the flocks designated for Esav to further hedge his bets that Esav would be overjoyed and thus accept and forgive him. In Maimonides' early legal treatise, the Minntetonka, he asks, Ezehu oneg, what counts as enjoyment in relation to Shabbat? His answer, in part, is that anyone who expands what is before them on Shabbat is worthy of praise. Just as Yaakov prolonged his gift to Esav, we also can manipulate our own Shabbat observances to increase our own joy. One of the stanzas of Yom Zeh Mechubad, a popular Shabbat song, often sung on Shabbat after lunch, reads, Echo mashmanim shtei mamtekin, eat and drink, ki el yiten lechol bo dvekim, for God will give to all who adhere. Beged lilbosh lechem chukim, clothes to wear and customary bread, basar v'dagim v'chol matamim, meats and fish and all sorts of treats. When my fiance and I host a Shabbat meal together, I have one rule: more dishes than people at our table. Yes, this allows me to experiment with new recipes and forces me to use more seasonal ingredients, but it also is driven by a certain wow factor. I want our guests to say wow each and every time I come out with another dish for the table, because it is precisely this sense of abundance and prolonging our joy alluded to in our parsha. In observing the day when we are to act as if without need, as if the world and its repair have been completed, stretching our physical gifts extends and expands our joy and gratitude. From Yaakov and Esav to wherever you might be eating dinner tonight, we have the power in our hands to extend our joy. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Micah, for being our teacher this evening. We will get to enjoy your gifts spread out throughout not only this Shabbat and into Sunday, but coming up in January as well, and to really experience the real joy, that real elevated joy that comes from that spreading and that sharing of gifts, and we'll experience the wow factor from your Torah as much as you're cooking.
And maybe next time I'll cook too.
Wonderful. You heard it here.
Okay.
He's coming to my house for dinner. I'm counting how many dishes I need.